Okay, ready, start. This week I thought I would retell an amazing story from the Hitlopadesa, a Sanskrit compendium from 1,000 years ago. It is not particularly moral but tells us that brains are democratic in distribution. Hit means welfare and Upadesha means advice. The book is a pay to common sense and mother wit and was at a thinking part of Indian oral tradition. Its author signed himself simply as Narayana. He said that he was indebted to the Panchatantra, which was written by Vishnu Sharman to teach some sense to 5 dull young princes. Narayana mentioned that he too had written these tales for a similar reason at the behest of a king called Dhaval Chandra. Nothing more is known about that, but Narayana's tales have reduced to instruct the willing in a number of regional languages. This ancient anthology also proved popular with the Mughals and the British, who commissioned translations from the Sanskrit into Persian and English respectively. The heroine of this story, for our purpose, is a young, independent girl, a village curd seller who kept number of cows. Let us call her Chadura, meaning clever. Chadura lived with her old mother. One peaceful afternoon, she stretched herself out on a grass mat near her snoozing mother. She had barely closed her eyes when a terrible sound broke out. Dang, dang, dang. It went unseeingly as though a wild, disorderly force was ringing a giant bell. Chadura ran out at once, as did the other villagers. They stood in a huddle looking towards where the sound came from. The forest, said the headman at last, feeling that some direction was due from him. It is a demon in the forest, said the priest. That's why we found that mysterious skeleton last month on a Sri Parvata hill. The big feudal lord came up with his soldiers. Which brave man will go to the forest and kill the man-eating demon? He bellowed above the din. I have a reward for that hero. But not one man was ready to venture out while the hideous sound came and went in terrifying snatches. Nobody cared to hear Chadura's views. She tried to make her way to the headman to talk to him, but the moment she said, "Please, sir," the men around him grew sarcastic and waved her away. This snip of a girl thinks she is cleverer than any of us, said one of the headman's hands-on. Chadura found that the men had closed ranks and looked angrily at her, a mere girl, for daring to interrupt their important counsels. Chadura retreated in silence. She set off alone into the forest to reconnoiter, for she had the uncanny knack of preferring fact to fancy. Going carefully close to the sound of the bell, Chadura almost laughed aloud when she saw the demon. It was a band of monkeys ringing a large iron bell. Why, I know the bell, she thought excitedly. It is the one at the Brahmpur temple that was stolen last month. The thief must have made his way into the forest to hide. But they do say that tigers come to the forest sometimes. Perhaps he was eaten by a tiger, and that was his skeleton they discovered. The monkeys must have found the bell and brought it away, and now they have begun playing with it. Chadura went home grinning. She would show those rude, bossy men what a girl could do. The next day she went up boldly to the feudal lord's house and asked for audience. I can kill the demon for you, lordship, but it will cost at least 100 gold coins for the enterprise, she said, bowing low and saluting the feudal lord. A girl like you, well, why not? After all, none of the men want to go, and that menace must be got rid of. But I want your mother to come here and tell me in front of everybody that you have gone of your own free will and with her permission. I will give you the money then, said the feudal lord. Since Chadura had told her mother her plan, this formality was duly completed. The newly appointed demon killer went home with a bag of gold. The next day, Chadura brought a sack of fruit, groundnuts, and tender coconut halves. After praying to Lord Ganesha, she made her way back to the glade. She sculpted the fruit and nuts around and stepped back to hide and watch. After a while, just as she hoped, the monkey band swung entering into the glade with their new toy. Seeing the treats on the ground, they began to help themselves to it. All the while, Chadra kept an eye on the big monkey who held the bell and seemed to be their leader. The big monkey soon joined his troop on the forest floor, fortunately dropping the bell at the edge of the glade. Chadura raced around and quickly muffled its captor with the empty sack. Lifting up the bell and keeping it close to the body, she stole home safely with her prize. The next day, she and her mother, dressed in their best clothes, and proudly bore the bell to the feudal lord. Chadra told him a fine tale about how she had persuaded the demon to go away with gifts. The feudal lord, his benchman, and the whole village cheered Chadura. The bell was restored to the Bahanpur temple, and Chadura and her mother were treated as guests of honor of the welcome back ceremony. Since no more bells were ever heard from the forest and never the skeleton found, it was plain to the meanest intelligence that Chadura had done her job well. She was treated with the greatest respect, and her fame spread to many villages around. Only the priest cast a knowing glance at her from time to time, but Chadura blandly ignored him, and we haven't forgotten her story all this while later. Stop.